Welcome, Karen Porter. Is independent running for Eden-Monaro, but I'll let you tell the story about the relationship with the New Liberals. Thanks for having a chat with me.
Pleasure. So, do you want me to go into that now, Charlie?
Please do. It's an important point. I think a lot of questions have come around it.
Oh, they have. I've been dealing with it through the whole campaign. So, about 2 weeks before Mike Kelly resigned, I was approached by Victor Klein because he was interested in me joining the party. And I thought, oh, yeah, great idea. And then he said, oh, we'd really like you to be in the seat of Eden-Monaro. And I'm like, oh, I've got such a busy business. I'm not sure I can fit in being a politician as well. And I said, look, give me a couple of days to think about it. I really love what the New Liberals have as their policies and their values. It was pretty much everything that I wanted to change in the world. And I thought, oh, wow, I found a tribe that can help me to do this. And I thought I can keep complaining about it, or I could actually jump on board and try and fix things. So I jumped on board, and then next minute Mike Kelly resigns, and I'm first cab off the rank. So I've been a bit of a canary in the cage because I've been also not only getting my name out there in a very short space of time, but also the New Liberals. So I've been sort of branding both, which has been a very hard tightrope. And I've been getting a lot of flack of, are you an independent or are you with the New Liberals? And they're not just
right. And so my take, right. So that's what it is. So if they had and that's COVID that's delayed that a little bit, is it?
Yeah, no, once the by-election's called, everything stops. Right. So they got it in just before, and so everything stops. So it's basically on hold, and it's got to go out for months and months of consultation before it can even be registered.
So you're running as an independent, albeit as soon as the registration comes through, you'll then be under the New Liberals. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. So when is the big day for the by-election?
Next Saturday, the 4th of July.
Wow.
Independent Day.
You're in the last bit. So
we are.
What's your experience been with the campaigning? Obviously, aside from the having to explain the brand of New Liberals, which in itself is controversial and unknown.
Yes.
What is it feeling like? How have you experienced it, and what feedback have you been getting from the people in Eden-Monaro?
Look, it's been an amazing experience. I'm so glad that I've been doing it. Before I said yes to Victor, I actually had a ban on media, and I put myself into a little cocoon, and if anything was important enough, it would penetrate. And when I moved out to Breadbow, I kept saying, I can pretend that we don't have a government out here and I can just get along with it because, there's nothing you can do about things. So I've been on a crash course of like this bear that's woken up. What the hell are you doing to my country? And I've quickly got across all of the issues that affect our electorate. I've absolutely loved that. I've got a real passion for renewables and regenerative farming. So I've been learning a lot about that. And I've had a really good response from people. They really love what I stand for, and they really love that I've got all the experience behind me.
And do you have a family? Have they been involved in campaigning?
I do. So I've got 5 children, but 3 adults and 2 teenagers, but they've been dragged around. The teenagers have been dragged around. And my parents have been out doing pre-polling for me, and they're going to be there on 4th of July at Googong.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been really good. But my New Liberals are my family. The New Liberals are my family, so they've been really good. Vic's come down a couple of times and helped me do letterbox drops. It's pretty amazing that your leader comes and does letterbox drops with you.
No, that's wonderful. And
yeah,
tell me, when you had conversations out in your community across the electorate, what are some of the common themes that you're coming across as to where perhaps people are dissatisfied or really feel passionate about?
Look, the biggest thing has been the bushfire recovery. Just around Breadbow, we actually got hit by the fires. So I was here on the weekend. That was just horrific. So we've still got 5 families that can't rebuild because they can't get their demolition done, and it's 6 months now. So, and one of them's actually got children, so they've been really uprooted. So not only have they lost their house, but they're really losing hope. So that's been a really big thing, is how slow. And it's been amazing how much pork barreling's been going on, since the election's been called, but no real action still. Promises are cheap.
And just for anyone who isn't across pork barreling, what that means, because I was admittedly new to it in the last election. It's largely when the government in power is able to make big, beautiful announcements and spend a ton of money in the electorates that they're trying to win back. And obviously,
Yeah.
people didn't have power in Eden-Monaro. This was a Labor seat. So doing what they can to try and claw back a few of those seats that, because it is quite precarious for them. So they've use their leverage and their ability to make these announcements in these areas so that it sweetens the deal, which largely doesn't feel democratic, and it isn't democratic. It really shouldn't be allowed. And is that the sort of thing that you're passionate about addressing, those sort of corruption?
Oh, definitely. It just makes me so sick, everything that's going on, and the incompetence of the government, like sports rorts. Now they've got reno rorts, they're giving money to people to renovate their house, and we've still got people homeless. And the relationships that they have with the bodies that are using pollutants like coal and gas. So until they break those relationships and they start getting serious, we're not going to move ahead with our climate action.
And how have you, because when I interviewed Vic and spoke to him a little bit about the name, the New Libs, and how possibly that would be fine in really sort of strong blue seats, but in the red seats, it's going to cause a problem. What's that conversation been like, trying to get across to those that Labor voters? They might be disappointed with Labor, certainly with the corruption allegations that have come out recently. How's that gone?
Really good, actually. I've got quite a lot of upset Labor people that have come over. And at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're trying to bring back the Liberal values, the true Liberal values. We sit just left of centre, so it's a really nice place, I believe, to sit. And the Liberal Party have gone far right. So they've really sort of, taken this name and run with it. And there's nothing liberal about them. So
well, they're neoliberal. I mean,
they are neoliberal. Yes,
the neoliberal Party of Australia. And again, these are the hard. If you're talking to people that don't or haven't either studied politics at school and understand the difference between neoliberal and liberal, and there's a lot of that education, I'd imagine, that's going on.
Definitely. And I haven't studied politics. And I think that's the beauty of the New Liberals, is that none of us are politicians. We're all just people who have had enough, and we're people that actually want to see change. And we're all coming with real life experiences, and we're all honest and, with people with integrity.
One of the sort of looking at, I had a little bit of experience in trying to support some of the independents last federal election, and interviewed some of them, or assisted and produced interviews with them. And, one of the key messages that they were trying to convey was vote one for the independent or the minor or emerging party, and second with the say a Labor, if you're looking
your favourite, favourite,
because of the way that preferencing works, and also for those that aren't perhaps aware that you're as an emerging or any party, if you don't get over 4% of the first votes, that you're not able to get the AEC funding.
Correct. Yeah. So that will help next time. Exactly.
Right. So it's not always about necessarily winning, but because if you get numbers, it's not going to suddenly mean that Liberals are going to win.
Oh, exactly. It's a low risk thing. So you put number one for me, for instance. Number two, just say you're a Labor fan. Number two for Labor. If I don't get up, then my vote keeps going along the line till it, hooks up with somebody that's got the majority. So it's an amazing system. And the how to vote cards, they're really just a suggestion. You don't have to follow them. They're not really meaning anything. They're just how I want you to vote. So you can use your democracy and your democratic voice and actually select who you want, and start from the top and work to the dark side. There's 14 on our ticket.
I like that, work to the dark side. So imagine, I mean, a lot of people I know, when I've spoken to certainly many that think that they're very, let's call them the old school political class. And, if you're not already famous and you're not going to spend $1 million, then you've got no hope coming in on the first time. That's usually what's been said.
Yeah.
when really it is a number game, and if you're able to have a better connection with the community, then if they understand vote 1 you and 2 whoever else is favorite, that actually could give you either enough to get the refunding and a good start for next federal elections going forward. But let's say you came out and you sort of changed history and you won. What would be some of the main sort of policy areas that you would be really campaigning for and being able to try to leverage the government as a backbencher in Parliament?
Yeah, so firstly, I would just be like gobsmacked, be like, oh my God, now what I'm going to do, because I do have a business that I'm going to have to deal with. What I'd really like to do is get a blueprint in place for the electorate. So, you know, a big picture of what do we want as an electorate, because it is federal government. You're not looking at all your state issues or your council issues. And the blueprint would definitely include climate action, renewables. I can see our electorate as having, you know, a really big push with renewables. We've already got some projects going, and I really would like to see our towns all be resilient and maybe have, you know, community micro hub sharing. So I'm pretty sure that can be achieved without having to go to too much detail, like actually putting out what you want. And I know Breadbow would be a great place, which is where I live, to be the prototype and then roll it out. So I'd be definitely pushing for our climate. I'd also be pushing for, you know, we've got some unsafe roads that people are upset about. We've got basic care, such as 2 of our major towns don't have any maternity services. So I don't know whether you heard on the news that, you know, ladies were giving birth on the side of the road, the Barton Highway. Yes.
Oh, wow.
And then our lovely Prime Minister got asked that question the other day in Parliament on what he's going to do about that road. And he goes, oh, we're upgrading it. We're going to make it a dual carriageway. You know, so literally was saying, well, the ladies can get there quicker or they can pull over into the overtaking lane. It was so insensitive.
Oh my
So there was no made mention of let's put a maternity services back at Yass Hospital. It was just like, oh, we're upgrading the road. You'll be fine.
Right. And do you think that that's just another example of how those that are career politicians, they live in a bubble. They live on a bubble.
They do. Yeah.
And part of it is the flaw within the way that the political system is, because once you are elected, the ability to, and certainly if you're Prime Minister, far worse, because you have to, without it being COVID, do a lot of international trips. But you know, unless you're making a concerted effort to consistently go and get feedback from your community and engage with them, because of the timetable of having to be in Parliament, you are thrust away from your community, and so you'd have to make a really concerted effort to, and that, you know, is something when I explain to people, that is the value. Even, you know, if someone is elected but then on either the backbench or the crossbench, that there is power in that, because there can be better community advocacy at that point.
Definitely. Yeah, well, they only sit like 180 days a year, so you do have time to go out and meet with your electorate. The problem is, though, they don't often. So, you know, they're in safe seats and they don't feel that there's actually a need to do it. And it shouldn't be a need, it should be a want. You should be asking your electorate, what do they want? And you should be going out to your electorate and say, well, this is what they're talking about at the moment up at the big house. What do you think?
Yeah.
You know, how can I represent your views? Because that's why I'm here. I'm not just here for myself. I'm here as your representative. And that's what a lot of them forget.
And is that something that you've been reminding the community that sets you apart, say, from the two major? You're not going to be sort of having to do big party fundraisers, and you're not going to be pulled away with all the politicking and the internal nonsense that goes on. I think so many people are frustrated by. You know, you're here as a representative. You've got a fresh outlook. You've not got, you know, 100 things that are pulling you against listening and connecting with the community. And is that something that they are responding to and appear to be refreshed by?
Oh, definitely. Every time I talk to somebody, it's just like, oh, wow, you know, you actually understand. And my 14 years as a small business owner, like I've been, you know, talking to people for 14 years now, getting their homes energy efficient. I've also worked in the public sector. I was in public housing for a long time. So, you know, I really love talking to people, and everybody keeps saying your biggest strength is how you relate to people. And, you know, if you can relate to people, that's most of the thing gone, you know, you're already up there. So
Absolutely.
I would absolutely love to get out to all the electorate, you know, and meet all the people in all the towns, and even dropping in a coffee shop and saying, what are the problems with this town? You suddenly find out everything. Well, what can I do to help you? So,
It is,
yeah,
I mean, it's so refreshing, that approach, which is, it feels like how it should have always been, and it's
I
sad that
agree. Yeah, I know. And it's so sad that it's gone away. And one of my main reasons for running is that I just feel like we've lost our way with our government. We've just lost our compassion, our empathy. We really need, I feel like we really need a woman there nurturing the country at the moment.
I wholeheartedly agree. One of the comments that I often say is that it's somewhere, it's the neoliberal influence.
Mm,
The ideal well-being is wealth and money and
yeah,
jobs, even though we know that, you know, the trend has been the wealthy keep getting, you know, aggregating
yeah,
wealth, and the poor are stuck.
mm,
It appears the government's only agenda is to talk about jobs and growth, and as
yeah,
if GDP is the sign of success or the sign
yeah.
of a healthy country, and not all the fact that, you know, where is healthcare, how is education tracking, how
How
health,
are our old people being looked after?
are we getting burnt? You know, are
Yeah,
people losing their houses because we've been hacking at money for supporting, you know, bushfires in a country that's so prone
yeah,
to it? So, you
yeah,
know, that's, I think, where a lot of it has been about losing their way, and they've lost their humanity, I think, and what it is really
totally.
a representative. Um,
I
how,
totally agree. And what
how
they've been doing with the refugees, like it's just another example. How badly could we treat one person? It's just disgusting.
well, I think, unfortunately, there's been a emboldening of xenophobia, which
Mm.
seems an absurd idea when Australia is such a multicultural country.
I know,
And the
totally.
idea that suddenly at some point, um, bringing, you know, people immigrating over is
Mm.
suddenly a bad thing, is a kind of
Yeah.
preposterous. I can only imagine what it must feel like to be an Indigenous Australian, and hear the
Mm.
hypocrisy of that argument,
Mm.
considering we haven't even resolved the fact that we you know, completely invaded and genocide and all the horrible things that came to the
Yeah.
start of Western culture in this country.
Mm.
It staggers to believe the hypocrisy, but, you know, there are people that do believe and are concerned because they've heard the rhetoric from Abbott, um, and this has been so toxic, you know, toxically, and it's not just here, around the world. We're seeing, even sadly, the news coming out of Glasgow overnight.
Mm.
It doesn't bode well for that argument, and people do feel scared. But, you know, I don't know how you're having those conversations, but the ones that I'm having is a
Yeah.
reminder of, well, you know, certainly in the countries that are war torn, and
Mm.
as Australians being allies with the US, we've largely had a place, we've had a role to play in that destabilization of that region. How
Yeah.
could we potentially go and destabilize a region and then feel no obligation to try and help people that are
Oh
so
no.
desperate? You know, they're
Oh,
humans.
I know. And then you can put that analogy also to the people that have served for our country
Right.
overseas, and they come back and we just like don't recognize that we've messed them up
Absolutely.
mentally. We
Absolutely.
don't help them out with their health, and it's like we put them in this position,
Absolutely.
and and
It's
we
the same
need to
thing, it's
help
the
them.
humanity, right?
Yes, it is. It's all humanity, exactly.
And we see such a juxtaposition between the humanity, say, in Australia in the last 10 years, and, say,
Yeah,
New Zealand, since
yeah.
Jacinda has been in, and how her approach has been completely different. And it's been,
We all want to
um,
move there.
but then at the same time, I'm like, I just want us to have that. Like, we
Yeah,
give up
yeah,
on, we have an amazing country and so much potential. We just
yeah,
need to connect together as a community,
yeah,
determine what our values are, and
yes.
vote according to those values. And that's something that I'm really hoping Eden-Monaro is able to do.
I don't know. People are now going on the toilet paper rampage again, so I'm not holding much hope out.
So,
People believe whatever happens in the media, and the fact that we've lost so much independence with our media, they're all hearing the messages that they want you to hear, not what you
yeah.
should be hearing.
And how has that been, campaigning in the midst of COVID? So it's
Yeah,
fine for me here in WA.
yeah,
We're more or less back to normal, but it must be quite difficult trying to connect with
Yeah.
people under restrictions. How's it gone?
It's been really good, actually. It's been really good because it's been a bit of a leveler.
Okay.
We're all having to do it. We've been on lots of Zooms. So a lot of the community groups have had the opportunity to record like we're doing now and get it out to their members. So, we've been using Facebook a lot,
Yeah.
and then all the Zoom meetings. So it's actually been quite good. The biggest thing is, though, that both of the major parties have just thrashed Australia Post with almost daily letters and flyers, and they're in the fear stage now. So this week I got one from Labor and one from Liberal about, fear about what will happen if we vote for the other party. I'm just like, dudes, we should be approaching this with love, not fear.
Or
And it's just,
inspiration, or
inspiration. Yeah, yeah,
innovation. Be original. Come up with how it's going to be done differently, and that
yeah.
I think is all the opportunity for emerging parties like the New Liberals, and the many that do exist.
Yeah.
It's lackluster. They're not exactly campaigning with intelligent strategies. There's a
No.
lot for anyone that wants to do it differently.
Yeah.
And I think most people don't even expect, anything all that different, but they're craving, in my opinion, authenticity.
But you've got the major parties that it's the parties that are campaigning. It's not the person.
Yeah.
So they're very controlled on what they can do. They're very controlled on what they're allowed to say. So you might get Christie in, for instance, the Labor candidate, but you're really getting the Labor Party in, and she's just their figurehead. And will you see her in the electorate afterwards? Or is she just going to be up there with Labor doing what Labor does, I don't know. I really think that, and she also had, Albanese following her around for a long time, and Scott Morrison's been following Fiona around. And like, seriously, you're both strong women. Just get out there and say it from the heart, not from what your party's saying.
But this is the inherent issue with the majors, right? Because once they are elected, even if they go out and campaign as an individual, we know that no matter what Eden-Monaro as a community feel, if the Labor or Liberal Party don't agree, or their donors don't agree, or they have their cabinet don't agree,
definitely,
then the community are going to be silenced. And the only way to move away from that scenario isn't with the majors. It's with people like yourself who are not going to be obligated to always toe the line. They have the ability to listen to the community and advocate directly for that. It is the most powerful, and we're seeing it with Helen Haynes and Indi.
Yes.
And the more Helen Haynes, the more Karen Porters, the more independent voices that have the ability to genuinely advocate on the community's behalf, the greater the power. And so that's what, my biggest message to anyone watching, and certainly anyone in the Eden-Monaro electorate, really, you have an opportunity here to have a much more powerful voice in federal parliament if you go outside of the two majors, who are only ever going to vote, with the interests that really are the pulling behind their majors.
Oh, exactly. And then we've also got the complication of the National Party. So the National Party will always join up with Liberals. So why aren't they one party? Why are they two parties? That just makes me angry. And now what they're saying is, if Liberal get in, so just say Fiona gets in at this election, then their gentleman's agreement is that the Nationals won't run next time because there's already a standing Liberal member.
Right.
So the Nationals, who are best friends with the Liberals, are now saying, we hope Labor gets in. How does that even work? Like, seriously, it's like schoolyard shit.
Yeah, it is. And that's the thing. It's not in the best interest of Australia.
It's not. It's their party that's being serviced. And as you say, their donors and their media friends and their power brokers.
It's really sad. So I hope everyone watching definitely thinks really deeply about what is the power of this vote that I can have, and if I want the best thing for my community as a whole, who is the best person that is going to be empowered to serve our interests over a big party's interests. So is there anything else anyone could do at this point? I know it's the last week to
Yes.
support or to assist you?
Oh, I really need some volunteers in some of the polling booths. There's 69 we've got. So we've probably got, I reckon, probably got about 30. We've joined up with another party who's going to hand out some in, and we're going to do a bit of a swap. Another minor party, the Christian Democrats, are going to help us out. We're going to help out our sister. She's a female as well, Narelle. So yeah, if anyone can jump on board and just be there on the 4th of July saying it's time to put an independent in, and look, it will be groundbreaking. It'll be the first woman, it'll be the first independent since Federation. So
Wow.
it's pretty amazing. Yeah,
that's historical stuff.
And I'd love to just sneak in the back door, because at the moment they're talking about the, Liberal and Labor and how they're polling, and they don't talk about anybody else. So I would love to just sneak in the back door on the 4th of July and go, oh, you didn't see that coming, did you?
No, it would be
so it'll be hilarious.
So I would love to maybe follow up once the days come. Hopefully it's going to be a celebration, but regardless, I think it's still a win for the community, because they've got to meet you, they've got to build a relationship with you. They know that regardless, that there's a voice for them, and I hope they reward it.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie. Been lovely chatting to you.
Likewise, best of luck, and hopefully we'll catch up in a fortnight perhaps.
We'll have a reflection on all the lessons learned, and the other thing with the money, we'll have only spent up to 20 grand, so you can do it on a low budget.
Wow, what a difference! Because I know that they're throwing in a lot of money for this seat. So
I reckon Libs have done $1 million. I reckon they've put $1 million. They would have bought 3 community houses, or maybe more.
And just think of all the favours then, now that they've got to repay that money.
Exactly. Yeah.
Graceful. Oh, well, best of luck. Thank you so much for taking some time out to chat. And
pleasure.
we will hopefully catch up with you in a fortnight.
Thanks, Charlie.